For most of human history, there was no heating, no insulation, no grocery stores, just winter and the question of whether you would survive it. 30,000 years ago, humans were living in Siberia. The average winter temperature was -40 degrees Celsius. They had no metal tools, no agriculture, no permanent shelter, no written knowledge of medicine. And yet they not only survived. They raised children, created art, built societies, and expanded across an entire frozen continent. What they knew about winter survival would kill most modern people to discover the hard way. Here is how they did it. Fire, the single invention that made human survival in cold climates possible at all. Before humans controlled fire, our species could only survive in climates similar to modern Portugal or southern Spain. Above that latitude, winter killed you. The oldest confirmed evidence of controlled fire dates back 1 million years. A cave in South Africa called Wonderwork Cave shows burn marks, charred bones, and ash organized in a way that could only be deliberate. But controlling fire and making fire are two different things. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans could maintain fire but not start it. If the fire went out, you waited for lightning to strike near you. Or you walked until you found another group with fire. The ability to start fire from friction using a bow drill appeared around 300,000 years ago. It changed everything. Fire did not just provide warmth. Cooked food releases more calories than raw food. Scientists believe cooking drove the development of the larger human brain by dramatically increasing caloric availability. Fire also hardened wooden tools, drove predators away, signaled location to other humans, and extended working hours into darkness, effectively doubling productive time each day. Groups that reliably carried fire across long migrations had survival rates dramatically higher than those that did not. Fire was so valuable that some groups assigned a dedicated fire carrier, a person whose only job was to keep the ember alive on the move. Clothing, the bone needle, invented around 50,000 years ago, may be one of the most important objects ever created. Humans have been wearing animal skins for at least 300,000 years. The earliest coverings were simple drapes, skins thrown over the shoulders. These worked in mild cold. In Siberian winters, the gaps where cold air entered the clothing would kill you. The needle solved this. For the first time, two pieces of skin could be sewn together tightly enough to eliminate the gaps entirely. The earliest known needles were carved from bird bone, hollow and incredibly light. They are found at archaeological sites from Siberia to France. With a needle, humans could make fitted gloves, boots, and hoods, covering the hands, feet, and face, the areas where the human body loses heat fastest. Arctic peoples today still use techniques derived from those 50,000-year-old methods. Inuit clothing is considered so thermally efficient that modern military cold weather gear is based on its design principles. The needle allowed humans to colonize Siberia, the Arctic, and eventually cross the land bridge into North America. It opened half the planet. Archaeologists rank the needle alongside fire and stone tools as one of the defining technologies of human prehistory. The person who made the first fitted seam did not know they had changed the world. They just did not want to be cold. Food, how ancient humans ate enough calories to stay alive when nothing grew for 6 months. The human body burns significantly more calories in cold, whether simply maintaining core temperature. A person who needs 2,000 calories in summer may need 4,000 in a Siberian winter. Ancient hunters in cold climates ate enormous amounts in late summer and autumn, deliberately building fat reserves before winter like a human bear preparing to hibernate. Fat was more valuable than muscle. A lean hunter who looked impressive in summer was a liability in winter. A stockier hunter with body fat reserves survived. A single woolly mammoth weighed up to 6 tons and provided hundreds of kilograms of meat. For a group of 20 people, a successful mammoth hunt before first snow could mean survival guaranteed for months. They preserved meat by freezing it in the permafrost, the permanently frozen layer of Earth that exists beneath the surface in Siberia and the Arctic. In 2019, researchers in Siberia found a perfectly preserved 42,000-year-old foal, still with liquid blood, frozen in permafrost. The same cold that killed it preserved it completely. Ancient humans also fermented food, burying fish, meat, and berries in sealed pots or bags to break down in controlled ways that allowed them to last through winter. Viking fermented shark hackarl produces such extreme levels of ammonia that eating it fresh would poison you. Fermented for months, it becomes edible. They chose this on purpose. Groups that failed to store enough food before first snow simply did not survive the winter. Whole settlements disappeared in bad hunting years. Hunting, how ancient humans killed animals 10 times their size with nothing but sharpened sticks. The woolly mammoth stood 4 meters tall and weighed up to 8 tons. The cave bear was twice the size of a modern grizzly. The woolly rhinoceros had a horn over a meter long. Ancient hunters had spears, flint knives. Occasionally, toward the end of the Ice Age, bone-tipped arrows, that was everything. Mammoth hunting required elaborate strategy. Researchers believe groups used fire to drive herds toward natural traps, cliffs, bogs, river crossings, where the animals were more vulnerable. Evidence from archaeological kill sites shows that mammoths were sometimes killed in shallow water or mud where they could not maneuver. The hunters chose the ground. Hunting a mammoth was not just dangerous. It was the kind of work where a single mistake meant death. A tusk could impale a man. A panicked animal could trample an entire hunting party. Cave paintings suggest that hunters performed rituals before the hunt, painting the animals they intended to kill, performing ceremonies that may have been spiritual preparation or simply group motivation. A failed hunt in late autumn was a potential death sentence for the group. The pressure of those hunts, knowing that failure meant starvation, is impossible to fully imagine. When a hunt succeeded, the entire group participated in processing the animal. Every part was used: bones for tools and shelter, fat for fuel and waterproofing, sinew for thread, organs eaten immediately for nutrition. Shelter, how ancient humans built structures capable of surviving winters that modern buildings would struggle to handle. The simplest cold weather shelter is a pit house, a structure dug 3 to 5 feet into the earth. The ground itself acts as insulation, maintaining temperatures significantly above the outside air. Pit houses have been found on every continent. They appear independently in cultures with no contact with each other, because the physics of Earth insulation works the same everywhere. In Siberia, where there were no trees and the Earth was permanently frozen, builders used what they had. Archaeologists have excavated mammoth bone houses 30,000 years old in modern Ukraine. One site contained over 600 mammoth bones arranged into a sophisticated structure. The frame was made from skulls and lower jaws, the walls from long bones, the roof from tusks. The entrance was the most critical element of any winter shelter. Every time someone entered or left, cold air flooded in. Ancient builders solved this with layered skin curtains, creating an airlock effect. Some Arctic groups built fully subterranean homes with only a breathing hole at the top. The body heat of the people inside could maintain the interior temperature above freezing, even in a blizzard. The Inuit developed snow houses, igloos, as temporary hunting shelters. Their design is a masterpiece of cold weather physics. The dome shape eliminates corners where cold collects. The snow itself is one of the best natural insulators that exists. Inside a well-built igloo with 2 people and a small oil lamp, the internal temperature could reach plus 10 or 15 degrees, while the outside temperature was minus 40. Migration, the oldest and most reliable strategy. Do not be there when winter becomes deadly. Seasonal migration predates modern humans. Every large animal that survived the Ice Age did so in part by moving. Our ancestors learned from the animals they hunted. In Europe during the peak of the last Ice Age, human groups followed reindeer and bison herds south through river valleys each autumn and north again in spring. The same routes used for tens of thousands of years. Successful migration required extraordinary memory and collective knowledge. Which mountain pass was safe in October? Which river crossing flooded in November? Where a competing group would be. This knowledge was not written. It lived in stories, in songs, in the memory of experienced hunters. When those people died without passing it on, entire migration routes could be lost. Archaeology shows that some river valleys in France and Germany were occupied by humans every autumn for over 20,000 years consecutively. The same campsite used across 800 generations. When humans eventually settled into agriculture around 12,000 years ago, they traded the freedom of migration for the reliability of stored grain. Winter survival became about preparation rather than movement. The first settled farmers faced new winter problems: crop failure, disease concentrated in permanent settlements, and the catastrophic consequences of a bad harvest with no ability to simply move elsewhere. The Little Ice Age, the period between 1300 and 1850 when temperatures dropped, crops failed, and civilizations collapsed. Between 1300 and 1850, global temperatures dropped by between half a degree and 1.5 degrees Celsius. That sounds small. It was catastrophic. In 1315, unseasonal cold and rain across Europe destroyed the harvest for 3 consecutive years. The Great Famine killed an estimated 10 to 25% of the population in the hardest-hit cities and regions of Northern Europe. The Norse had established thriving settlements in Greenland around 1000 AD. By the mid-1400s, they were gone. The temperatures had dropped too far for their cattle to survive, and they could not adapt fast enough. The Thames River in London froze solid regularly between 1309 and 1814. Londoners held frost fairs on the ice, markets, bonfires, and ox roasting directly on the frozen river. In 1709, a cold wave killed an estimated 500,000 people across Europe. Venice's lagoon froze for the first time in recorded history. The Baltic Sea froze solid. These were not prehistoric people without resources. They were medieval Europeans with stone buildings, preserved food techniques, and centuries of accumulated winter knowledge. The cold still killed them. The Little Ice Age is a reminder that the line between surviving winter and dying from it has always been thin, and that small changes in temperature can rewrite history. Cold itself, what the human body actually does when it is pushed to its limits, and how our ancestors learned to read those signs. The human body begins losing the battle with cold when core temperature drops below 35 degrees Celsius. This is hypothermia. It starts with shivering, the body burning calories to generate heat. As temperature drops further, the brain begins rationing blood supply, pulling circulation away from the extremities to protect the vital organs. Fingers and toes go numb first. At 32 degrees, a person stops shivering. This is not recovery. This is the body running out of fuel to fight. It is one of the most dangerous signs hypothermia produces. Ancient people who had lived in cold climates for generations knew these signs from observation. They understood that a person who stopped shivering needed immediate rewarming or they would die. The most effective emergency treatment available to ancient humans was body heat. Stripping and sharing a sleeping structure with hypothermic individuals, something that sounds extreme, is textbook wilderness medicine that works. Frostbite was a different threat, the actual freezing of tissue in extremities. Ancient groups developed treatments using animal fat rubbed into skin to slow heat loss, and gradual rewarming in water heated to specific temperatures. Fire, clothing, food, hunting, shelter, migration, and the knowledge to read the body itself. 7 answers our ancestors found to a problem that killed the unprepared. They had no certainty. Every winter was a genuine test. The groups that made mistakes did not get to try again. The people alive today are descended exclusively from the ones who passed. If you want to see more stories like this, subscribe.